Hey guys, it's Kevin Gunton for Daredevil Season 1, Episode 4, In the Blood, and this was another fantastic episode. Really, the show is very consistent. Honestly, this is probably one of the most consistent TV shows I'm watching, and I know that Season 2 is getting a new head writer, but honestly, I'm not worried because I heard that the two weakest episodes are actually the ones from the creator, which are the last two episodes of the season, so I'm honestly not worried because of how good the show is right now, which are not, created by that creator. If the person that's, going to be head writing the show are the people that's writing these episodes, I'm going to be very happy because this was by far the best episode so far, honestly. I thought this was a great episode, and one of the things I love this episode is that it just served up a lot of tension, definitely. It also made us care a lot more about, Wilson Fisk, and let's get into this episode because it was amazing. So, again, we start off with another really thrilling scene. As I've been saying, that's one of the best things that Daredevil does. It puts you right into the episode. And if you're like, I don't know about this episode, it puts you right into it, and I love that. So we own this Siberian prison 8 years ago where a tattooed man is thrown to a cell, and waiting in the cell is the man's brother, who has a plan for their escape, and once they're free, the brother explains it will migrate to America. So now in the present, one of the Russians runs through Hell's Kitchen. He enters his getaway car, but before he drives off, Daredevil drops his brother's body on the car. Still, the Russians peel off into the night, and basically then we cut to the intro. And we see right away who our big, villains the episode are, and I thought overall it was just really thrilling. A lot of this episode actually was all about why, Matt does what he does. Why does he Daredevil? Why does he do these things? And I definitely really enjoyed that, because basically he then goes to see Claire, and I have to say that I would have thought that they were gonna get Foggy and, Matt and, Karen together, but they're going Foggy and Karen together. But it seems like Matt and Claire definitely have something, and I actually really like their chemistry here. I think Claire is legitimately a very good, would be a good girlfriend for Matt. Really, she would, because basically, he goes to see Claire, who stitches a wound of his, and Claire says that Matt should get body armor to protect himself, but Matt thinks it'll slow him down, and I can understand why she's saying that, because, and it's really foreshadowing that eventually he is going to get that body armor, because I do hear that in episode 13, he does get the Daredevil suit, and basically, and you see the conversation, they're starting to flirt or whatever. I definitely saw a lot of chemistry between them in this scene, which is really great because we're supposed to, want to see chemistry from them. But the moment passes, and Matt gives Claire a burner phone so that he can easily contact her for medical emergencies because, he's pretty much going to need her every time he's in some sort of a fight because she's right, and this way he'll have her number on standby, and I think that's really good. And he asks Claire a very interesting question. I like what he asked her here. He asked if she's ever heard of the name Wilson Fisk, and I was just like, okay, how do you know Wilson Fisk? Which they're still not really telling us how he knows Wilson Fisk, but she says she hasn't, and Matt says he'll continue to hunt Wilson down or anyone that knows him. And clearly Matt knows who Wilson Fisk is. He knows, that he's after him and everything, but I don't think that Matt knows him. I don't think he's ever actually met the guy. I think he just knows that he's after him, of course, because that, that guy, I can't remember his name, but last week, the person that Daredevil, and the man that committed suicide ended up revealing that he was working for Wilson, and now he wants to go after Wilson. So, across town, the Russian and his colleagues meet Wesley, and Wesley informs them, and one of the things all about Wesley's character, I have to say, is that they have made Wesley just as intimidating as Wilson, which is awesome. I mean, when you look at Wesley, he's not exactly intimidating, but what he says and how he speaks is really, definitely very shady and very intimidating. So, he informs them that if they sign on with Wilson Fisk, he will doubt their input, but the Russian explains that Daredevil almost apprehended them, and Wesley tells the Russians that Daredevil is weakening their operation, but Wilson can provide new structure to their criminal group. Basically doing whatever he can to turn them against Daredevil, because what does Wilson and, Wesley want to do? They want to get rid of Daredevil, because, he's ruining their whole thing. So, basically, the Russians resist, but Wesley insists that Wilson will bring change, and they don't really know what the difference is, because, they don't really see a difference between Wilson and Daredevil, so the Russians decide to consist a formidable colleague of theirs to stop Daredevil, which I thought was really interesting, and right away, as I said, puts us right into the episode. So at a diner, Ben and Karen discuss Karen's Union Allied conspiracy, and I really like seeing Ben's storyline last week, and it seems like here, we're really starting to get Karen, give Karen her own storyline, which I love seeing, and Ben's crime story, and they trace the pattern of death, follow several of Union Allied's associates, and Ben tells Karen to drop the trail and leave it alone, but Karen is insistent on following it, and Ben ultimately says that Karen's theory lacks an credible source and refuses to help her. So I felt felt really bad for Karen there because, you want her to, be able to be innocent and everything, but they just don't really know if they can help her because they don't know if she really knows what she's doing, which, I mean, Karen seems like she does know what she's doing, and they should trust her. I mean, she's a secretary, she's very good with that stuff, but she might not exactly know what she's doing, so I like seeing that scene. So, the Russians visit their friend, the one that Daredevil actually torched on Claire's roof in the hospital, and they pull his support systems and inject him with adrenaline, and the man comes out of his coma and tells his brothers that the devil tortured him, and it kind of reminded me on The Flash when they have metahumans. That's kind of what happened to him. So, he tells him about Claire and how she had Daredevil in her apartment. However, the thing is, this was a lot more realistic and a lot more believable. He didn't have, like, superpowers or anything, but I thought that's where they were going for. But, of course, this show's a lot more realistic than that, so he doesn't actually have superpowers, which I kind of like. And that night, Wilson and Wesley discuss how to handle Daredevil, because they don't exactly know how to approach him. They don't know what they're going to do, and I was happy they had this conversation, because basically Wilson says if the Russian brothers can't subdue Daredevil, then he'll find some other solution, because he has to find a way to get rid of Daredevil somehow. And Wilson exits their car and enters another art gallery, and there he finds the same curator from last episode. And I thought this was really interesting, because, of course, last week was the first episode where we actually saw something of Wilson, and that right there got us intrigued. So it was very interesting seeing where they were going to go with that, and we actually see Wilson actually trying to flirt with the woman, getting us to sort of care for him a little bit, which I like seeing. I like seeing that Wilson is not a heartless guy, because if he'd be this heartless villain, I mean, it'd be cool, but he actually does have a heart, and what they're going to do is they're going to get us to care for him just as much as Matt, which I think is awesome. Any show that can get you to care just as much for the hero and the villain is awesome. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love Justified so much. That's one of the reasons why, why I love that show so much, because they got to take care of her boys much as they do about Raylan. That's something I love, and it seems like they're doing the same thing with Wilson and Matt. So, basically, he thanks her for selling the painting, and she talks about how, he seemed really interested in the painting, and he asked the woman to join him for dinner, and she accepts, and she introduced herself as Vanessa, and I already see a lot of chemistry from them in this scene. I really think that, they have some sort of a future together, and I honestly would love to see these two get together if they really want to get them together. I think that's a great idea. So at Claire's apartment, she hears movement from an unknown source, and I think this is the first time that Claire is actually involved with anything in Matt's, crimes or anything like that. This is the first time that something bad happens to her, and it's the Russians, and they grab her, and she manages to call Matt on her burn phone before they drag her away, and I can totally understand if someone's like, she's a damsel in distress. No, she's really not, because she's actually there for Matt, so she's not a damsel in distress. Yes, she was kidnapped, but it's not like, oh, she's just a damsel in distress. No, she actually has stuff to do, which I love. And Matt runs to her apartment, but he's too late, and Claire is gone. Using his enhanced hearing, Matt listens for her screams. He locates her voice just a few blocks away, being stuffed into the Russian's car. He tries pursuing, but the trail goes cold, and Matt circles back to Claire's apartment, where he finds Claire's friend, and he gives Matt a lead, saying he saw them all get into a taxi owned by the Venice Taxi Company, so basically, that's where he needs to find her. So at an auction elsewhere, Karen watches this man bid on an old surplus of Union Allied computers, and Ben is there, and he tells Karen to win the computers at any cost and the meme in an hour. So he definitely is reconsidering not helping her. He's going to tell, he does want to somehow help her, and I like seeing that. So Wilson and Vanessa enjoy their day in an Italian restaurant, and Wilson stumbles through their conversation, but Vanessa puts him at ease. And they talk about how Hell's Kitchen has changed over the years, and he even admits that he would want to get away from Hell's Kitchen, that New York City is a part of his blood, and I think that's really interesting how he talks about how, he's Hell's Kitchen and everything, because most of what's going on in Hell's Kitchen is because of Wilson. I mean, that's really why it's happening, because, Wilson Fisk is the man at this and everything. That's really why all this is going on. So the Russians take Claire to a Venice taxi garage where they torture her for Daredevil's name, and this is just a crazy scene to see. This is something that makes me happy that the show's team mature, because they could never show something like this on Agent Carter or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, this is such a crazy scene. The lights go off and Daredevil descends on the Russians. I thought something legitimately bad was going to happen to Claire. I really thought that they were going to do that. Did I think they were going to kill her off? No, but I thought something bad was going to happen here. And he just starts taking them, and we see how much of a badass Daredevil is. He starts taking them out one at a time. The one remaining Russian actually grabs Claire, but Daredevil quickly disarms him, and Claire then knocks him out with a baseball bat, and Daredevil holds Claire and comforts her. And I thought that was a really sweet scene. I like seeing them, develop, and also because one of the things I like is that there's no, like, oh, who's Daredevil? She already knows who he is, and I think that's great that we saw that, because There's a show, the show is like The Flash. Now, I know that's DC, this is Marvel, but I'm just comparing them because this kind of reminds me of a slightly grittier version of that. On a show like that, it would take forever. Even Arrow, let's talk about Arrow. Arrow, it took like season 2 for like most of the characters to find out who, Oliver is. Here, they already know. Claire already knows. Karen, I don't think knows who he is, but Claire knows who Matt is, and I think that's awesome that Matt knows. I mean, pretty much the entire main cast knows who Matt is, minus Karen. So, but there's no reason for her to really know. There's nothing that Karen's been involved in, but eventually he's going to reveal to her. And I'm pretty sure the way the show's going, he's probably going to reveal to her at the end of the season. I'd be fine with that, honestly, because the way the show's going, the show's very slow paced, but it's also very fast paced in the way like they're revealing things, and I definitely like that. So, Karen meets Ben in their diner, and she says that she won the Allied computers, and Ben then admits that it was pure luck that he ran into her at the auction, saying that he was independently pursuing the story too. He still thinks Karen is an inexperienced investigator. He should leave the story to a professional like him, but Karen convinces Ben to let her join his investigation, which honestly I think is a good thing, because, you have a really, experienced, professional to do this, and you also have a secretary who's kind of inexperienced, but she does know what she's doing. She's not stupid. That's something I like about Karen's character. She's not an idiot. She's not Iris. Okay, I said it. She's not Iris. Because let's face it, Iris is kind of an idiot in The Flash. She kind of is, and basically, together they will look into Union Allied and its criminal connections, which I think is really interesting. So across town, the remaining Russians want a meeting with Wilson. They find him at the Italian restaurant and ruin Wilson's date with Vanessa, and was going really well, and they had to just ruin it. And I feel so bad for Wilson. Honestly, I feel bad for him because it was going really well, and then they do ruin it. So Wilson rushes Vanessa out and tells the Russians that he'll meet him later, and he walks Vanessa to her apartment, but she's a little shocked by the Russian scene, and she says she's unsure about Wilson now. She leaves Wilson, and it was going really well, but now she's just kind of unsure. Now she knows more of what he's into and things like that. He kind of scared her off, and do I think that he has another chance with her? Yes, but he definitely scared her off, and I definitely feel bad for him. I never thought they'd get me to feel bad for Wilson, but they actually did. And she leaves Wilson with either confirmation or denial that she'll see him again. So there is still that chance that they'll get together, but it's definitely probably going to take a while for them to actually start something, because he kind of just turned her off. So I thought that was kind of sad. So back at Nelson and Murdoch's, Karen explains to Foggy that she bought all the Allied office equipment on the computer card and on the company card, and at Matt's apartment, Matt patches Claire's wounds up. He apologized for dragging Claire into his war, but Claire says it's alright, and she asks Matt if he has an endgame to his crusade. But Matt says he just wants to make his city a better place, and I thought that was really great. He actually tells her his real name, because of course she thought his name was like Mike or something, but now he tells her his real name. He says that his name is Matt, and you definitely see that these two are getting very close, and I love seeing how close they're definitely getting. That's something I definitely am enjoying. So across town in Wesley's car, one of the Russians brothers, Anatoly and Wesley, recap their encounter with Daredevil, basically talking about, how crazy he was and everything. And Wesley says that it wasn't wise to barge in on Wilson because, he was on a date and he didn't tell them to come there. So suddenly Wilson, who's probably pissed off, and I understand why he did this, but this is gruesome, gruesome stuff here. It really makes us terrify him. Something I love about the show is that they're making us terrified but also care for him. And he rips the car door open, he pulls Anatoly out, beats him to death in a fit of rage. He instructs Wesley to take the Anatoly's body, send it to his partner Vlad, and he's counting on the move to start a game war with a third party, which Wilson desperately wants, and that's how the episode ends. So, what this gang war I think is, I think definitely Wilson's going to start a gang war against Daredevil, and Daredevil's not going to know it's coming. Definitely Matt is not going to know that this is going to happen to him. He's not going to know, why he's doing this. He's just going to know there are going to be all these different people in these gangs, and he has no idea that Wilson's connected to them. Because remember, he just found out the name Wilson Fisk. He doesn't know anything about him. He doesn't know anyone who's working with him. He doesn't know anything about the guy. He just knows that there was this guy that committed suicide because he was working with him. That's all he knows. So he doesn't know much about it, and I like seeing, I'm not going to say that he's naive, but definitely to Wilson, he is kind of naive, and I loved this episode, definitely. There's a lot to talk about. let's talk about Matt and Claire. I love where they're going with Matt and Claire's storyline. I think it's very well done the way they're handling it. Because I like that there's no like secrets for Matt or Claire to tell. I mean, they just can have a steady relationship, and I honestly feel like that's where we're building towards. We're building towards a relationship with them, and I really like it. The chemistry between Charlie Cox and Rosario Dawson is very good. I have to say they're doing a really great job with that. Now, I have to say the guy that plays Wilson on the show, I don't know his name, but he is a fucking badass. He was awesome in this episode. He was better than I ever believed him to be. Honestly, this is when I saw like pictures of Wilson and how intimidating he looked. This is exactly what I wanted him to be. What I never thought is that they guessed to actually care for him. And the best villains, as I said, are the ones you care for. And I love that we actually care about his character. It's not just like he's a heartless person. He, basically killed Anatoly. He, beated Anatoly to death because he ruined his date, and he really wants things to go well with Vanessa. And I want things to go well with him and Vanessa, because I think they're good together, and I'd like to see if they have any further chemistry, and I feel bad if they don't have any further chemistry. We'll see what happens there overall. Vanessa, I think, definitely was turned off by him. It's definitely going to take a lot for him to actually get her to like him. I think it's going to take a lot for that to happen. Let's talk about Karen and Ben. I think that this is good. This partnership between Karen and Ben, I think that they can work together to find out, who in Union Allied did this to her. Because I'm pretty sure that Union Allied is the one that did this. Their criminal connections, we'll see what happens there as well. Karen's in danger, definitely. Karen's in danger now because, not Karen, Claire's in danger now because of what happened to her, and I definitely feel like she's going to get into more situations like this, so definitely, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I'm interested in seeing, if Claire keeps getting into more situations like this. It could be really interesting overall. Not much for Foggy doing this episode, but I was honestly kind of fine with that. Foggy had some fun lines, but that was fine. I really didn't have a problem with Foggy not being in the episode. And overall, again, another fantastic episode. I'm just loving this show more and more as it goes on. And this was the best one so far. It got us the character development we needed on Wilson Fisk. On other shows, they would spend tons of time focusing on some character that we're never going to see again, and this show is not doing that at all. Yes, it has these these two Russians that we're probably never going to see again, but they are connected to Wilson. Everyone in the show is connected to Wilson somehow, and that's how it's not, a procedural show. It's not like Arrow or The Flash where you have Villain of the Week or Metahuman of the Week. It's not that kind of show. It's more like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Agent Carter because it's Marvel, and I love that they're doing that. Overall, though, I thought this was another great episode. Let me know what you guys saw of this episode. I thought this was probably the best episode so far, honestly. I know this was a shorter review. There just wasn't as much to say in this episode. There was stuff that happened, but it just wasn't as, there wasn't as much as what happened in the previous 3 episodes. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for another classic movie review, which I cannot wait for, which I'm really looking forward to them. I think I'm really enjoying my classic movie reviews this year, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for that. So I will see you guys for that. And again, let me know what you guys saw of this episode. What do you think of the show overall? I'm very interested in seeing you guys' input on the show. Some people I know don't really like the darker tone, like they think it's just getting too dark. What I like about it is that it's realistic. It is. The whole show is just realistic, and because it's so realistic, it makes me care about the characters more. It makes me like the story arcs more. There's nothing that feels out of place. If they do something completely unrealistic on the show, yeah, I'll be upset about it because of how unrealistic it will be, because it doesn't go with the rest of the show. The whole show so far has been very realistic, and I love that, and that's something I've been loving about this show, and I can't wait for the next episode, but I will see you guys for my review for another classic movie, so I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.